Miata y'all, and welcome to the Stardrop Corner, the #1 place to discuss all things Stardew Valley. Okay, so today we are going to talk about Clint and can he be redeemed? And I think if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen the YouTube videos where it's got the giant thumbnail and Clint is just standing there with a red arrow and it says, "Incel, this guy's a creep. He's horrible." And before we get into it, I do want to preface that this is a podcast style. I do not have a script. I just have one of his dialogues copied and pasted so I can read it verbatim, and then a message from Concerned Ape copied and pasted so I can read it verbatim. But the rest of this episode is completely just stream of consciousness, so there is going to be a bit of me going off topic a little bit, but trying to tie it back in. And the whole point of these podcasts are that it's unedited and it's easier for me to get all of my thoughts out without having to spend hours upon hours upon hours editing a bite-sized video. With this kind of format, I feel like I can really pour all of my thoughts out about a topic, and then it opens the door for a lot of lovely conversations in the comments. And I've really been enjoying the conversations and discourse that we've been having in the other podcasts in the comment section. So I appreciate y'all leaving comments and discussing some of these things, because I feel like there's a lot of nuance and a lot of substance in this art form that we call a video game and that we call Stardew Valley. So back to Clint. I feel like the topic of can he be redeemed? That's a big question. Let's look at what his problem is first. What the hell is wrong with this guy? So my biggest issue, and I'm gonna have to go off topic just a little bit, but just hold my hand. Hold my hand. I'm not taking you too far. Don't worry. It's something that I have a problem with in society. It's something that I have a problem with in a lot of fandoms and art forms, where for a lot of people, a happy ending for a character means that they have to be married, and they have to have a significant other, and then they have to settle down and have children. And I don't agree with that. I do not think your worthiness as a human being is factored in based on if you end up getting married or if you end up having children. I don't like that mindset. Unfortunately, that is how society is. Society is very obsessed with the ultimate goal in life, getting married, you know? So I feel like with a lot of the conversations that we're going to bring up today concerning Clint, we are going to be talking about the fact that he is single and how he really doesn't want to be single. And I have thoughts on that. So just to preface, I really don't like this concept that a character's development stops the second they settle down, and that their happy ending is them settling down finally. I don't like this concept, which I know is very hypocritical, because in a lot of farm sims, yes, including Stardew Valley, it's kind of like finishing the game is when you marry somebody. I will say Concerned Ape has added in so much content that now that's not true anymore. There is so much content. But before Ginger Island was added, before all these other things were added, the game did start to slow down a lot once you got married to somebody. And once you updated your house all the way, and you finished the community center, it did start slowing down a lot, and it felt like, okay, I'm kind of done with this game. Mind you, it is a sandbox game. You can play it endlessly. It's infinite years. But for a lot of people, they felt done with Stardew Valley once they got married and had 2 kids, and then they started getting bored, and then they made a new farm. So obviously we're going to talk about that because Clint talks about wanting a girlfriend and being lonely and being single endlessly. But I've got issues. My thing is, whenever a quote-unquote nice guy, quote-unquote incel, quote-unquote whatever you want to call it, gets brought up, I always think, why are these people like this in the first place? What happened? And with Clint, we really don't know. The only thing that we know about his family is that he said that the only reason why he's a blacksmith is because his dad was a blacksmith, his grandfather was a blacksmith, and his great-grandfather was a blacksmith. And his father pretty much pushed him into becoming a blacksmith. It's not what he really wants to do. I cannot remember if he ever mentioned what he actually wants to do. I don't think so. But if he has, please feel free to leave a comment down below and correct me. So with nice guys, incels, etc., whatever, I always wonder, like, where did this come from? How did this happen? And I actually did some research for this podcast episode. I researched a little bit on some subreddit discussions, some YouTube videos, some articles, some Tumblr posts, some social media posts. How does this happen in the first place? And let me just look at my little bullet point notes. It pretty much comes down to poor self-esteem, lack of confidence, and a pushback from society, being ostracized or not accepted in some way, shape, or form. Now, this could be for a multitude of reasons. A lot of people online say, oh, it's because this person isn't conventionally attractive. Therefore, they never had luck with getting a significant other. Therefore, their confidence and self-esteem went down. Therefore, it's just a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the lower your self-confidence and self-esteem is, you kind of, you don't really take care of yourself, you keep getting shot down, you keep not having a date for the dance, and then it just keeps happening, and your self-esteem gets worse and worse and worse. But people always talk about that in the sense of relationships, and I always wonder, okay, but do these quote-unquote nice guys, do they have friends? Do they have actual connections outside of people that they just want to screw? Do they actually have meaningful, deep connections, people that they can talk to about their thoughts and feelings, especially when society ostracizes men for showing the quote-unquote wrong emotions? Because we all know that men are very much encouraged to show anger, but not very much encouraged to show sadness or loneliness. Do these quote-unquote nice guys have friends or family members that they can turn to? Are they actually being ostracized by all of society, or are they just being ostracized by those that they're attracted to, whoever that is? And unfortunately, we don't know that much about Clint concerning his family. Let's look at his friends, though, because for a lot of the Stardew Valley characters, we don't know too much about their family. For example, we don't know anything about Harvey's family. All we know is about Harvey. We don't even know if he was born and raised in Stardew Valley. I don't think he was. I think he was born and raised somewhere else. But let's look at his friends. We see that Clint doesn't have any friends. We see that at the saloon, he's always sitting next to Willie. And based on what we know about Willie, I don't think Willie would sit down at the same table and have a drink with a complete asshole. I don't think he would. I think Willie sits at the table because Clint is on the quiet side, so he's not, talking Willie's ear off. They are both working class, so they probably, have very light conversation of, oh yeah, today was a tough day. Oh yeah, got any good sales? Okay, cool. Yeah, business a little tight right now. Right. But other than that, I think Willie is the type of person that really values just calm, quiet, evening beer or whatever he drinks at the saloon. So I think if he's consistently sitting at the same table as Clint, there's probably a reason. I don't think Clint is rude towards Willie in any way, shape, or form. I don't know if they're best friends, but I don't think Clint is mean or rude towards Willie in any way, shape, or form. And I did some research because I was like, surely Clint has to have some friends or something. It feels, we don't know for sure, but it feels like he's been in Pelican Town pretty much his whole life, because he's had that blacksmith shop for such a long time. And actually, in the 1.6 update, Concerned Ape added in some variation with the festivals, where the festivals will have different dialogue for the characters depending on if it's an odd numbered year or an even numbered year. And I actually found something interesting. During the Stardew Valley Fair, only on an even numbered year, so you gotta wait until year 2 to get this. If you talk to Clint while he's standing next to his Grange display of all of his ores and bars and all of that, he says, "It's heartening to see others take an interest in my work. Makes me feel like I'm doing something good in the world. I finished some of these pieces just last week. Please inspect them closely. I stand behind my work." And this was very odd to me because this is one of the, in fact, it is the only dialogue where he's actually talking about the other people of Pelican Town in a positive way. He says, "It's heartening to see others take an interest in my work." So we can assume from this dialogue that during this festival, people are walking around, socializing, they're walking by all of the Granges, and they're stopping by his Grange and saying, "Wow, you've got iridium bars. Oh my god, this looks amazing. You work really hard." Yeah, I can't imagine working at like an anvil and sweating by the furnace all day. You do really, really good work. And we can assume that it's multiple people doing this because if it was just Emily being nice, Clint would say to us, "Oh my god, Emily came over. Oh my god." So he didn't say that. The way he said it's multiple people in Pelican Town coming over and saying very kind words towards him. When we talk to other characters in Stardew Valley, nobody says anything negative about Clint. I don't see anybody say anything nasty in any way, shape, or form. There's a couple of dialogues from Jody after Shane's 6 Heart event where he's on the cliff and he drank too much and then he had to go to the hospital. 1.6 added in a gossip dialogue with a few characters where if you're dating Sebastian, for example, and you talk to Abigail, Abigail will say, "Oh, you're dating Sebastian? I didn't know you guys were a thing." Comments like that where it's in regards to another villager of Pelican Town. When you talk to Jody after Shane's 6 Heart event, Jody will say, "Oh, did you hear what happened with Shane? Oh my god, I'm so worried about him. I hope he'll be okay." I've seen some people online say that this feels passive-aggressive or feels like very gossipy, even though it's good intentioned. And I've seen other people say, "Oh my god, that was very sweet, blah, 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 blah." There is nobody in Pelican Town that ever says, "Oh my god, Clint's alone again. Oh, I can't believe it." Like, nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says that at a festival or at an event or anything like that. Nobody ever says, "Ugh, Clint is so annoying. Ugh, blah, 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 blah." Nobody ever complains about him. And one could argue that being invisible is potentially worse than being blatantly ostracized or blatantly disliked. But let's look back at that fair dialogue. People are taking an interest in the work that he does. I don't think he's disliked. I don't think he's hated. I think he's just quiet and shy, and maybe he doesn't put in effort to make friends in Pelican Town. Maybe he does, and it just fell short. That's always possible. But I don't think he's being bullied, ostracized, hated, or anything like that in Pelican Town. So why doesn't he have any friends besides Willie? Let's just assume that him and Willie are like decently friends. They're drinking buddies at least. So why is it that Clint doesn't really have any connections outside of Emily, who he is obviously very much in love with? And you know what? One could even argue with that, because I also have an issue with when it's concerning characters in like a video game or something like that, and somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'm in love with this person," but it's like, you guys barely talk. You don't really know anything about her or him. So I'm confused. We get a little bit more information when we reach 8 hearts as a friend to Clint. If you talk to Clint when he's got 8 hearts with you, he'll say, quote, "Maybe I can find a girlfriend on the internet, ... What? Don't judge me. Not everyone is a cool, attractive, socially adept farmer, you know. What's a guy like me supposed to do? Groan." And this always felt a little off to me, because it felt very like, why is he so defensive? Our character didn't say anything. We did not pick a dialogue choice in any way, shape, or form. And it's so weird to have a friend, right? Because we are at 8 hearts with him. It is so weird to have a friend kind of lash out at us with so much jealousy and envy. But then also degrade himself at the same time. It's not really fair when you have a friend that says, yeah, not all of us are lucky enough to get a promotion at work. You know they're not actually happy about you getting that promotion at work, or at least not in that moment. There's that sentence is filled with some poison, right? There's some venom in those words. The jealousy and envy is pouring out, and they're being self-deprecating towards themselves, and you're kind of backed into a corner where you have no choice but to either retaliate. What are you talking about? I earned that promotion, right? Retaliate and go on the attack mode, or comfort them because your friend just said some nasty words about themselves and you feel an obligation to make themselves feel better. No, come on. Like, yeah, I got the promotion, but listen, you've been working hard. You've been putting in a lot of hours. Your time's gonna come. It's right around the corner. Don't worry. So I have a lot of experience with this kind of thing. And when Clint says something like this to us, I felt that cringe. Not cringe as in, wow, that was embarrassing. Cringe as in, Jesus, he really talks about himself like that? And then he like throws that onto our plate. And then mind you, there is no dialogue choice after that. Our character can just walk away. Just walk away. Also, side note, Clint says, not everyone is a cool, attractive, socially adept farmer, you know. Let's analyze that for a second, because a lot of the, discussions I saw online about nice guys, incels, etc., are, it's people that aren't conventionally attractive. But, Concerned Ape's artwork is gorgeous, and I think all the characters are supposed to look attractive in some way, shape, or form, especially for the characters that we can potentially marry. And of course, it's pixel art, so obviously there's some interpretation. Clint is not an unattractive person. He's not drawn to be unattractive. He looks like a normal guy. And I looked into it a little bit. Concerned Ape actually said that Clint is mid-30s to early 40s, and I will add a source in the video description for y'all to look at, don't worry. I think a guy that looks mid-30s to early 40s looking like that is normal. That is a normal guy. Like, there's nothing alarming or weirdly unconventional about the way that Clint looks. I don't know why he's saying that. Maybe it's possible that people told him that while he was growing up. Maybe his family said things like that while he was growing up. We don't know. We don't know that information. But let's also look at the fact of him saying that we're cool and socially adept. Now, the cool part, I'll let that one slide because we go into the mines, we repair the community center. Our character is a superhero. I'm gonna put that one to the side because our character literally has like superhuman strength, superhuman stamina, magic powers, magic talismans and items. We'll leave that one alone. Socially adept. So he's aware that he is socially awkward, and he misses social cues, and he doesn't really understand what to say or what to do in certain scenarios. He doesn't really, he chokes on his words a lot. But the thing is, with that conversation, it's one of those things where it can improve over time. So the fact that he's aware that he's not socially adept makes me wonder, okay, what are you doing about it? And I guess we'll never know because we don't really see him putting an effort into any other villagers except Emily, the person that he's romantically attracted to. So it really makes me wonder, okay, is he actually trying to improve his social skills with friends? Is he trying to make friends? Because it seems like Pelican Town is trying to be nice to him. I don't really see people being evil or mean or ostracizing him in any way, shape, or form. Now, let's look at the fact that if we become friends with him, as a male farmer, we're going to get different dialogues from him compared to if we have a female farmer. So this is me reading direct quotes. This is not me making up anything or anything like that. If you are a male farmer and you invite Clint to the movies, you give him a ticket. He says, "A movie? Yeah, whatever. Sounds good. See you at the theater." When you're at the movie theater, talk to him again. He says, "I guess it's a guy's night, huh? Does that mean I have to buy my own snacks?" Which I think that's fine. That's a normal conversation. In the movie, the description says, Clint is taking sips from an unmarked flask. Then he says, "It's just hick, Joja Cola," and he's smiling. Next dialogue is after the movies. He says, "Hey, that was kind of fun, right?" And he's smiling. And that's the end of the conversation. So firstly, yeah, I guess it's a little weird that he's sipping alcohol at the movies. Whatever. I'm not too crazy about that. I'm not too upset about that. I think that's fine. A little weird that he said, "Oh, it's just Joja Cola," when it's a flask and he's like hiccuping, so it's obviously alcohol. Whatever. Not that big of a deal. Now, the bigger issue is if you are a female farmer, and I am directly quoting this, if you give him a ticket as a female farmer, he says, "A movie? Yeah, whatever. Sounds good. See you later. See you at the theater. No problem." When you're actually at the theater, talk to him. He says, "Oh, are we on a date then?" And his face is very shocked and like, "Oh my god." In the movies, there's a description. Clint is taking sips from an unmarked flask, so he's drinking again. Then he whispers, "If you're tired, you can put your head on my shoulder," or not. And his expression, he's blushing a little bit. His eyes are like very alert. And then after the movies, he says, "Hey, that was kind of fun, right?" So it's like we're getting the vibe of socially awkwardness from, him feeling the need to drink at a movie. I mean, maybe that's the way he enjoys himself because he does go to the saloon every night, but I had always thought that he goes to the saloon every night to see Emily. But okay, maybe he really likes whiskey, maybe he really likes a beer, a little cocktail. Fine. But we do know, as adults, that a lot of people do drink when they are in social situations because it helps them feel a little bit more socially adept. So I'm wondering if that's the case. In the movies, he feels a little awkward. He doesn't really get invited out to the movies a lot because there wasn't a movie theater until we repaired it. So he doesn't really go out a lot. Doesn't really know what he's doing. Kind of stumbling over his words. Fine. The issue was the second he's next to a woman, he's talking about, "Oh my god, is this a date?" And at first, I thought, okay, well, a movie could very much easily be interpreted as a date. Is it so crazy? Is it so bizarre for Clint to wonder, "Oh my god, am I on a date?" Is it that crazy? Let's pause that for just a second. During the night market, if you talk to Clint, and I don't know which day it is, but during the night market, if you talk to Clint will say, "I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Maybe the mermaid show will calm my nerves. But what if they think I'm ogling?" Gulp. What the hell is that? Like, what is going on? Why did he say that? It's just, it's this socially awkwardness that we only see when there's an involvement of women, because we don't see him be too socially awkward when we're a male farmer, and we don't see him be too socially awkward with Willie. I think his interactions with the male farmer going to the movies, I think it's fine. I genuinely think it's fine. But it's only when we're a female farmer and then we're talking about the mermaids that he just starts saying these things where it's like, why did you say that out loud? What are you thinking? Like, you can watch a mermaid have a little singing, dancing show and not immediately think, "Oh my god, they're gonna think that I'm staring at something," and then voice that out. So I can understand the paranoia and him thinking that because he is socially awkward. Okay, we're good. But the second you voice out every little thought that runs through your head with no filter in any way, shape, or form, nothing is telling you, is this appropriate to say out loud? Am I making the person that I'm speaking to uncomfortable by saying this out loud? See, now we have issues. And it makes me think, maybe the other people in Pelican Town, maybe they started seeing certain things or hearing certain things. And one could argue, well, hey, hold on, what about Emily? Emily is so sweet towards Clint. She seems very friendly, very talkative, very communicative with him. But also, and listen, hold on, because I love Shane. Y'all know this. Hold on. Emily also, talks to Shane a lot, and he tells people to just shut the hell up and get out of his face. So, I don't think Emily's standards should be, watched like a hawk. Emily gives people a lot of chances and opportunities to warm up, and she handles a lot of social situations with grace. She is very much a social butterfly. She is very much, oh, let's just all have fun, whatever, blah 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 blah. She is the type of person who, if you accidentally, like, if you were talking to Emily and you accidentally spit in her face while you were talking, because that happens sometimes, she would just wipe it off and be like, oh my god, haha, anyways, blah, 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 blah. And like the conversation would be so smooth. It would be fine. It would be no issues. Some people are like that. They can just take those little social faux pas so easily and they just move right by it. They don't care. They're like, oh yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, you misspoke. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. And it's so easy for them because they are so socially adept. And then obviously other people, they're a little bit more awkward. When something like that happens, they kind of freeze up. They don't know what to do, blah, 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 blah. I think Emily is very unique in that she is so socially adept. And she is such a social butterfly. Can we say the same thing for every single person in Pelican Town? I do not think so. I actually think a lot of people in Pelican Town are very socially inept. I think a lot of people in Pelican Town are actually very socially awkward and socially inept. In my one of my previous podcasts about Elliot, I interpret a lot of his actions and dialogue as just a nerdy, dorky little fanfic writer, who's very endearing and sweet, but he is socially awkward. And when you talk to him, you see that he doesn't have very many friends except for like Leah, because he is so passionate about writing. He even had to leave his previous hometown or his previous residence so he could get this cottage by the sea and actually finish the novel and this and that and this and that. You talk to Shane, socially awkward. You talk to Harvey, socially awkward. You talk to Sebastian, socially awkward. Like, boy, howdy. Sorry, and let me not just say all the men, because guess what? Leah, socially awkward. Absolutely. Penny, socially awkward. Like, come on. Which makes sense. It is a small town, and a lot of these people socialize with the same people day in and day out, and you kind of get into these routines. So when you're introduced to new people that are on the outside, and then they kind of like are introduced to your personality and your little quirks and your little quips for the first time ever, it's just like, oh, this is just how they are. It feels probably a lot more socially awkward than it actually is. But regardless, I'm very curious if maybe that's one of the issues with Clint, is that maybe he has attempted to make friends in Pelican Town, maybe he hasn't. Maybe everybody is a socially awkward dork in this godforsaken town, and connections with people are really, really difficult. And maybe that's one of the things that us, the farmer, that's one of the things that we come in, we swoop in, and we kind of fix everything. We fix everybody's problems, which ties back to the original question. Can Clint be redeemed? I think he can be if, and only if, there is a major update from Concerned Ape involving a lot of dialogue. I think a lot of his actions towards Emily, at best, if I scurry up as much grace and compassion and forgiveness and consideration that I can for another human being, it would be considered socially awkward at best. But listen, like, it's one of those things where I think when you ask people to kind of forgive and sweep your actions under the rug as just, oh, I was just being awkward, sometimes people are awkward and they're creepy, because two things can be true at the same time. And I don't think anything is ill-intentioned, malicious, hostile. I do not think that. And I do think some people go way too far when they're talking about Clint. They make it seem like he's some horrible villain that's going to kill somebody. Like, okay, all right, calm down. Like, this is Stardew Valley. Concerned Ape would not write his characters like this. Let's look at the facts, and let's look at how Concerned Ape writes all of his characters, where they are flawed, but they're not doing absolute evil, heinous shit, except for Morris. But, like, if you're doing the Jojo Mart ending, you're evil too, so whatever. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Please don't leave a comment and say, I'm not evil. But listen, let's be real. The only reason why Clint has been able to get away with a lot of the things that he's done towards Emily is because Emily is so socially adept that she is very understanding and willing to forgive and be considerate and acknowledge, okay, he's just a little awkward, no big deal. B, she forgives very, very much. Look at Haley. Jesus Christ. Emily is really good at forgiving people's faults and forgiving and for giving people lots of grace with their little screw-ups. And she also is paired up with Shane during the flower dance. Now, I know some people will say, oh, but that's just because neither of them were romanceable before this update, and then they were romanceable, so obviously Concerned Ape paired them up together. This is true. Yes, I do think this is true, but I also think Emily is the kind of, I don't want to call her Manic Pixie Dream Girl. I don't want to call her that, but I think a lot of people view her that way. And people like that are going to let socially awkward dorks get away with a lot. Let's be real. Perfect example is Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers. Whenever people watch the Scott Pilgrim movie for the first time, they're like, oh my god, Ramona was cool, I love her hair, I really like knives. Yeah, Scott was a little, I don't know, yeah, I guess he's a little relatable. Yeah, okay, whatever. And then you tell them, hey, you should read the Scott Pilgrim manga and like the books and everything. You should get like the whole story. And then they read the whole story, or they watch the reboot thing, whatever that is, the anime cartoon show, however you want to call it. Also, I think I just banged my mic, sorry. Or they watch the reboot, or they just take a dive on the wiki of Scott Pilgrim, and then they're like, wow, he's kind of an asshole. Like, he's really mean and unkind. And it's like, yeah, he always was. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can be socially awkward and be young and be in the middle of your coming of age story and your coming of age arc, and people can still think of you as an asshole or creepy or weird. Like, two things can be correct at the same time. Conversely, people can also find you endearing and fall in love with you, like Ramona Flowers did with Scott Pilgrim. But like, if you pull Knives to the side, or Kimberly, what was her name? Kimberly, I can't remember her last name. Scott Pilgrim's first girlfriend. Pull them to the side and ask them, hey, is Scott Pilgrim socially awkward? Oh yeah, he is. Okay, cool. Do you think he's an asshole? Oh yeah, he is. Okay, cool. Do you think he does have like some nice qualities to him, which is why you fell in love with him in the first place? Oh yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, two things can be right at the same time. And I feel like with a character like Clint, he is so polarizing for a lot of people. It's either he's a horrible, disgusting incel, or oh my god, he's a sweetheart who's misunderstood. There's gotta be a middle ground, and that's where I stand. I think that Clint can be redeemed. I do. However, there's gotta be some dialogues from Concerned Ape, maybe 1.7, I don't know, where he kind of takes accountability for some of his actions, and, he shouldn't be given, like, this constant, relentless grace. Some of the things that he's done, like hiding in the bushes, spying on Emily, not okay. And he should pull Emily to the side and say, hey, I did this. That wasn't okay. I shouldn't have done that. I'm really sorry. And take accountability for his actions. Take accountability for the way he's acted and make some improvements on himself. And maybe reach out to some of the people in Pelican Town that I do genuinely think would be friends with him. And I do genuinely think these people, like, want to talk to him and get to know him a little bit. Honest to God, I could see Clint becoming decent friends with Shane after Shane fixes his drinking problem. Because I think before that, he just doesn't have the patience for anybody. Clint could become friends with Shane. I think he could become friends with Harvey, genuinely. Elliot, genuinely. Leah, for sure. Pam, yes. Gus, of course. I'm trying to think of who else. I don't think any of the younger bachelors or bachelorettes. I don't think so. I think his awkwardness would just be too much for them. But definitely more the mature characters. Absolutely. You've got Pierre, Caroline, Jody, Kent. I think he has the potential to make a lot of friends. So I do think Clint can be redeemed, but it requires a lot of work and a lot of insight and self-reflection. And I guess we'll just have to see if that ever happens. Thanks so much for listening. If y'all have any thoughts, comments, concerns, anything like that, leave a comment down below. I promise I will reply, or I'll at least heart it so you know I read it. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate y'all. And until next time, bye!